Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the GEF live series here in Vietnam at the GEF Assembly. My name is Max Atkins from the Connect for Climate program, and we're coming to you live on the Connect for Climate's Facebook page. We've been running a series of discussions around the global commons, the global environmental challenges we're seeing, and some of the transformative actions and solutions that are being talked about here at the GEF Assembly, but also that are being rolled out on a large scale to really take us to a sustainable, low-carbon and resilient future. And it's my great pleasure to have a discussion now with Rolph Payet. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So Rolph, he's the Executive Secretary of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention. And you previously were also the Minister of Environment and Energy in the Seychelles. So maybe just to get us going, could you explain a little bit some of the challenges you faced as a minister on environmental issues, and also some of the successes and some of the actions that you're really proud of in your role as a minister?
Well, in my previous role as minister, as you know, Seychelles is a very small country, bang in the middle of the Indian Ocean and with about 80,000 people. And it's very beautiful, so a lot of tourists go there. I mean, we get 3 times, up to 4 times now, the number of tourists than we get with our population.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the amount of issues that arises from it. Of course, it looks beautiful on the outside,
Yeah.
but tourism consumes a lot of resources, has an impact on land, or pressure on biodiversity, pressure on the oceans.
Yeah.
So you can just imagine, how do we manage this kind of pressure? How do we ensure that the tourism that we're trying to promote in the Seychelles does not have an adverse effect, not only on the local culture and people, but also on the environment, the beaches, the coral reefs, the mountains, but more importantly also the amount of waste that tourism industry will generate.
Yeah.
How do we manage this waste?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that those wastes do not become a problem of, for the health of the people and for the environment?
Yeah.
So these for me were some of the challenges, and one of the things we always wanted to look at in Seychelles is how do we make waste a viable economic option, because I believe solid waste management needs an economic solution.
Yeah.
It is not a chemical solution or a high pie in the sky solution. It is an economic situation because it's linked with consumers.
Yeah.
We buy things, we use things, and then we throw things away.
Absolutely.
So what is the economic rationale of making the things that we throw away something that we can also use and return back into a whole cycle to make other things with, or to recycle it for that matter? So I put in place in Seychelles a scheme to deal with PET. We know PET bottles. Mm-hmm. This is what you drink your Coca-Cola, yeah, Fanta, and all the other stuff. And of course mineral water. People consume a lot of spring water nowadays. So the scheme was to put a value to these bottles and then have a returnable deposit on those bottles, so that when people use it, then they can take it back and get the money, their money that they put in on this deposit. And I think this worked very well. Overnight, we saw the country clean in a way from
Fantastic.
those PET bottles. So for me, that's one of the successes of addressing the challenges that we face in Seychelles.
Fantastic, and congratulations. And that really shows that, strong leadership and putting in the right kind of framework really allows for business to shift their activities, and for consumers to also make the necessary changes. And that's also very much the discussions that are taking place here at the GEF Assemblies. How do you shift our systems in a transformative manner to ensure that the new business models, the new economy is one that is resource efficient, is one that applies a circular economy thinking mindset. So let's take the discussion a little bit further to the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm conventions. And could you maybe just explain what they are? And you already mentioned waste as being a key ingredient in our environmental management. So over to you to explaining those.
Thanks, Max. I won't put you to sleep, but I will try just to explain in very few words what the 3 conventions are. The first convention, and the oldest, is the Basel Convention. The Basel Convention looks at transboundary movement of hazardous waste, yeah, between countries, yeah, across oceans and across borders. Yeah. So basically it is an international regulatory environment where countries need to inform other countries when they are sending wastes. First, to avoid the waste being dumped in the ocean, for example, or somewhere where nobody lives. But secondly, also for us to have a system where we know that the country where you are sending the waste has the capability of handling that waste. There's no point sending a highly sophisticated waste like, let's say, lead-acid batteries to Seychelles when we don't have the capacity there, nor the industry, nor the technology to solve that thing. So you might as well send it to a country which has the capabilities to manage this waste in a sound manner as well, because the waste also should not create other problems.
Absolutely.
As you've seen in many countries, like for example in Western Africa, where a lot of the waste, like electronic waste, is dumped. Electronic waste are from computers, but there they are dumped, and then those young kids go and burn those mobiles, and they extract the gold and other metals from it. But when they burn it, there's toxic fumes that get into the atmosphere, and they breathe this, and this causes health issues. And that brings me to the second convention, which is the Stockholm Convention. Now, the Stockholm Convention is a very specific convention in that it deals with organic chemicals. These are chemicals which are not of human nature or organic. I'm trying to explain something here to the non-chemist. But these are chemicals that last a long time in environment. It's like putting something under the ground and coming back 20 years, 50 years later, and it's still there. But these are chemicals, they're invisible. You need really high precision equipment to find it. But these chemicals stay in the environment for 50, 100 years, and even longer. So that's one of the criteria to use. So once you find such a chemical, then it can be considered for listing under our convention. And you can understand why.
Of course.
Because we're putting something there you cannot see, you need high equipment to test, and it's going to stay there for a long period of time. So you have to be concerned, right? Especially if somebody puts it in your backyard.
Absolutely.
The second reason is it has a long transport, which means that it can travel very far in the air, in the sea, and on land. So again, it's invisible, but if it travels very far, you need to know about it, because if I live on the mountain and you live on the coast and I dump something in the mountain, and that thing has a potential to travel to the coast, you need to know about it. So that's the second convention. And the other third aspect of it is that it can accumulate in your body. Because if having something that doesn't accumulate in your body, which your body can digest and get rid of it, is fine. But if you are eating something which stays in your body and has a potential of impacting your health, impacting you, and even be transferred to your children, then you have to be concerned.
Absolutely.
So this convention relates to this. So in very simple, illustrative terms. Now the third convention, which is the Rotterdam Convention, is Information Exchange Convention on chemicals. Which means that when country A sends to country B a chemical, like a pesticide, for example, to be used, that country has the right to say, no, I don't want that chemical because I don't have the facilities in my country to handle that chemical. So it's an information exchange. So it's a very important convention because it allows this kind of communication between countries, and also, in a way, deals with illegal. Because you will then find out, at the end of the day, if this chemical is present in your country, how did it come in? Because nobody notified me that it came in. So it must have come in through the back door or through somewhere in my border. So you can identify illegal as well. So these are the three conventions that I'm responsible for.
No, that's absolutely fantastic, and thank you for framing that. So really, the Basel Convention looks at toxic waste. The Rotterdam Convention looks at those high inorganic and toxic chemicals that easily spread. That was the Stockholm Convention, and Rotterdam is more about the information exchange and really documenting the flows of these chemicals. So what have been the recent gains you've seen within this field, and what's your message to the GEF Assembly here?
Okay, well, the GEF is, in fact, the financial instrument for the Stockholm Convention. And what we've seen, we've had an evaluation done in the last couple of years, and what they've seen is some of these chemicals are now going down, which means that the GEF has been effective in addressing this issue. There's, of course, more awareness. There needs to be more awareness. There's more attention given by industry. There's more regulations and training, and capacity building at the national level so that governments are taking more action on dealing with these kinds of chemicals. So across the board, there is a lot more momentum than there was before. So the GEF has really been instrumental because it provides the financing through projects at the national and regional levels to help address, like I've said before, these chemicals are most of the time invisible, but they are deadly. And it's quite complex compared to dealing with polar bear, with a koala bear, or with different species or forests, which we can see.
Absolutely.
So that's the challenge in my sector, and the GEF as well is dealing with those invisible.
Absolutely, and
hazards.
in many ways, those chemicals are also so intricately linked to business and industry. It's great to hear that the emissions of these have come down, and that there's greater awareness also within the business community. But looking ahead, how are we going to really scale up the agenda around waste and chemicals? And what is the role of business? Are they getting more and more serious? Are they taking the lead in the management of these processes?
Yes. Scaling it up, I think, is basically what we're looking at now from a strategic perspective, is working with industry a lot more. First, there is the economic incentive for industry. They are making those projects. They are selling those products. And they are generating resources from those products. So how can we ensure that what they are producing or what they are making is sustainable, to use a simple word? Yeah. This is very important. So working with the GEF, in the GEF 7, there's huge emphasis on really engaging with the private sector, because I personally believe they are the solution.
Absolutely.
And it's not that they created the problem, because it's a complex issue, and I don't want to point fingers to industry. Yeah. They are part, but they are essentially very much so part of the solution, and we can do a lot. And I think today there are clear leaders in industry. There's clear demonstration of solutions. Some solutions are staring at us in the face. Some solutions we can do now. Some solutions need more research, more study, more testing there, but there are a lot of things that we can do now, and we need to do those things that we can do now.
Absolutely. Let's scale up the action and do it now. Final question around waste. Can you also start integrating new forms of chemicals and new forms of waste under these conventions, like, for example, plastic or microplastics? Or what is the category for the waste to be recognized by the conventions?
Okay, the Basel Convention is a very flexible convention, as is Stockholm and Rotterdam. They have to be flexible, because otherwise they'll become old before they actually become relevant to everybody. So there's ongoing discussions now on how to make the Basel Convention, to modernize it, so that it addresses the present issues. And two of the important discussions in recent times has been one on electronic waste, which, as you know, is a big emerging problem. So that's already now part and parcel of the Basel Convention program of work. Household waste is now part. We have a household waste partnership. And at the next COP, in fact, we started the discussion at our last conference of the parties, but at this conference of the parties, there's going to be intense discussions on the issue of marine plastics, on the issue of plastics, on the issue of microplastics, and how it relates to the whole aspect of waste management, and how we can tackle this global issue. And in fact, some countries have put forward amendments to the convention to that effect. So this is fitting very squarely within the mandate of the Basel Convention, and I'm looking forward to hearing what the countries have to say and how we can move forward on this important issue.
And that's really exciting, and that is the excitement within this space, that you're open for new solutions, you're identifying new technologies, new waste management strategies, and really pushing forward this agenda of a circular economy, of efficient resource use. And with that, I'd like to ask you to maybe just share your message of inspiration. How can young people join this movement to managing all our waste streams and ensuring that we're living in a more sustainable, healthy future?
I have one simple message for the youth. This is your planet. This is your time. Changing a mobile every 6 months is not sustainable, sorry. You might want the latest technology or whatever, but my mobile, I also love latest technology. My mobile lasts me 3-4 years, and it can still work with the apps that is coming out tomorrow. Our young people, we need to be much more sensitive to how we can contribute, and also as future consumers, because we're going to become future consumers. Tell industry, this is what we want for a better future. This is the kind of products that we want for a better future. That's my single most important message to the young people now today. Don't be bedazzled by all the flashy new products. Look at the contents. Look at how it can make a difference, not only in your life, but in also your future generations that you are being, asked to be responsible for.
Absolutely fantastic. So really, you can take the leadership as consumers, but also the leadership in building those new technology producers and being part of the new economy as we transition to a more sustainable future.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us
so
on the GEF Live series here at the GEF Assembly in Vietnam. Keep on engaging with us with the hashtag GEF Live. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Max. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.